Welcome to Prime Business with me, Emma Davis. A look at our stories. Government is hoping to spend a total of 226.7 billion cedis in 2024. This will represent 21.6% of the GDP. Speaking in Parliament during the 2024 budget presentation, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta explained that the projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditures relative to the outturn in 2022.
Mr. Speaker, total expenditure is projected at 226.7 billion, 21.6% of GDP. This projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditure commitment basis compared to the outturn in 2022. This large decrease comes from the combination of fiscal consolidation efforts of 4.9 percentage points of GDP, reflecting an adjustment in revenue by 1.1 percentage point and primary expenditure by 3.9 percentage points of GDP.
But reacting to this, economist Professor Lord Mensah has stated that the 2024 budget does not seem to give room for the private sector to thrive, but rather crowding them out. He argues, per the expenditure lined up for 2024, government may want to hold on to business rather than allowing the private sector to participate in the economic transformation of the country.
The term turning the corner, I think, is too early. From where I sit, I won't use that term when, inflation is above, interest on investment. If inflation is above interest on investment, then it means real value of investment is negative. So at what point did we turn the corner? We can only turn the corner when, per his projections, you could see we are targeting inflation somewhere around, 15% by the end of 2024. At the same time, average interest rate in the monetary policy rate in the economy, we are targeting somewhere 15% as well by the end of 2024. That is when we can comfortably say that we've turned the corner, because at that point, real value on investment is almost zero. And that is, going into the positive side. So looking at the financing bit, per my projections, I don't think interest rate structures are going to come down any moment from now. And it's a cause to worry in an economy of that sort. Looking at the proposals on projects that have been lined out, clearly you could see government wants to still hold on to business, without, looking into the situation for the economy to be transferred to the private sector.
All right.
The crowding out effect still lingers on if you look into the budget clearly. And I don't foresee any moment from now that interest rates are going to come down on the market.
The finance minister also announced some 8 tax reliefs aimed at helping the private sector.
Mr. Speaker, tax reliefs. Our approach to tax policy since 2017 was to give significant relief to the private sector until expenditure pressures from 2020 required a more aggressive approach. It is important to note that in the short term, fiscal sustainability requires that we improve our tax ratios significantly, otherwise our long-term competitiveness will be eroded. As we all know, our country's 13% tax to GDP ratio is far below our peers. Our target is 18 to 20%, and we are on course for 16%, hoping to be achieved this year. In that regard, it is difficult to implement all the structural reforms and tax reliefs needed to immediately lower and/or eliminate certain tax handles. However, I assure this august House that we have heard. We believe in lower taxes as a government for industry, and we are working others aggressively with the GRA and to be cemented with the Standing Committee of the Mutual Prosperity Dialogue. Mr. Speaker, further to the above, the following reliefs have been prioritized for implementation. to extend, Mr. Speaker, the zero rate of VAT on locally manufactured African prints for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on import of electric vehicles for public transportation for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on semi-knocked down and completely knocked down electric vehicles imported by registered EV assembly companies in Ghana for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to extend zero rate of VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to zero rate VAT on locally produced sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant import duty waivers for raw materials for the local manufacture of sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant exemptions on the importation of agricultural machinery equipment and inputs and medical consumables, raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry. Mr. Speaker, a VAT flat rate of 5% to replace the 15% standard VAT rate on all commercial properties will be introduced to simplify administration. To address the negative externalities of plastic waste and pollution, government will review and expand the environmental excise duty to cover plastic packaging and industrial and vehicle emissions.
Reacting to that, Associate Director of Tax at KPMG, Gordon Dade, commended government for outlining some tax reliefs. He says this will boost production and ensure sustainability for private sector players.
Broadly, I see the tax reliefs in 3 categories. One that is going to boost production from the side of the release for businesses. Ones that are going to look at the sustainability issues that we are experiencing. You know, globally, there's a lot of talk about sustainability and ESG. And if you look at some of the reliefs that we are going to have for the motor vehicle industry, for example, they talk about the release for SKD and then the CKD, where the semi-knockdown vehicles, once you import them, there's that relief or exemption on the import duties. And I think that is very important because we need to look at how we can operate sustainably as a country, how to move away from all the carbon emissions and things that we are seeing. So those are very good policies. And also on the plastic side, government is intending to review some of the taxes there. And that will help us to manage some of the impact of the environmental issues on our economy. And so for me, the one that is also important is also the informal sector, where government is looking at also restructuring that side and also bringing some simplified taxation for that side. We've always been talking about how to widen the tax net, and the informal sector is one area that we have to pay attention to. So I'm quite happy that government is going to look at that side, but we'll have to wait to see what the tax returns and what the reforms are going to be come 2024.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Union of Traders Association have expressed disappointment over the failure of the 2024 budget to meet their demands. Speaking earlier on Business Live, President of the association, Dr. Joseph Obing, said the business community would have to find ways to contend with the challenges they are saddled with.
Our main demands as traders were not met. As you know that we are so clear with our demands from the trading community. We're demanding that COVID levy should be removed. We're demanding that the special import levy also be removed. And then we're demanding also that the VAT as it is now should be restructured to ensure conducive operation by the business community. And all these were not met, even though we admit that there have been a tax reliefs for some industry players in the car industry, that's the electric assembling cars here, and then local vehicle manufacturers, African print manufacturers, sanitary pad manufacturers, and agric machinery, which are all very good for a section of the industry. But for the trading sector, and the fact that we have been complaining about high cost of doing business, our inability to clear our goods from the port, our inability to even comply with the VAT and all that were not met.
More reactions on the budget as the Deputy Minister of Energy, Andrew Ejapa-Mensah says the 2024 budget has instituted the right policy measures to help stabilize the energy sector. He added that this will ensure there is stable power supply next year.
I make the point always that, look, there's always an opportunity cost to every financing that you have. Okay? So if ECG has ab initio 35% take or pay obligation in terms of excess capacity, that's a hole right there. And so whatever resources that they are able to generate would obviously be insufficient to meet all their outflows. And so they need support. So government has to necessarily make those support available to ensure that the lights are on. But can you keep doing that? No. So what do? You need to renegotiate some of those agreements that are in place so that you can reduce that burden. And that has been done. In the coming days, you would hear an announcement of the discussions that government has had with the IPPs, such that that obligation would then reduce. Then you put in investment in the ECG system itself to improve efficiency, okay, so that within the short, medium to long term, you can deal with that problem comprehensively.
I was trying to wrap up to each you on this budget.
Deal with that issue, and we're working on it to ensure that, rest assured, going into next year, as has been the case in the past 7 years, there will not be doomsday.
Away from budget-related stories, government has been entreated to focus more on improving local enterprises to consolidate its industrialization agenda. According to the Director General for Management Development and Productivity Institute, Bernice Ejay, this is significant to ensure sustainability. There is more in this report.
Sustaining competitive and responsible enterprises is an ILO global program that seeks to improve productivity and working conditions in small and medium enterprises. The key intervention of the global program is a training which combines practical classroom sessions with in-factory consulting. SCORE training demonstrates the best international practices in the manufacturing and services sector and help SMEs to participate in global supply chains. According to the Director General, these enterprises need more advisory services.
It's actually very fulfilling because the impact the SCORE program is having on the enterprises. You know that in Ghana, 80% of the enterprises or the businesses are all small and medium scale. And so when you see the impact on how the transformation goes, it's very, very fulfilling and exciting. And on top of that, without the SCORE program, we cannot achieve the industrialization agenda for the nation, which is to, build up our industries, and it is through best practices. And so what SCORE gives the enterprises is how to be competitive and how to sustain your business. It's a continuous learning process. And so we are excited how the German government, through GIZ, is funding these projects. We started in Accra and then moved to Kumasi, Central Region, and now happy to tell you that we are in the north now. And a lot of the processes that goes on, sometimes we leave out some of the regions, so we've been pushing to go to the north. And now we are actually going even further. After this project, we're going more to the northern part, and then we'll be going to Volta region, we'll be going to Oti region. And so what I tell the enterprises who call is that everybody should exercise patience, and we are coming.
The SCORE program was launched in 2011 in Ghana with funding from the State Secretariat for Economic Affairs and the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation.
Development Bank Ghana has announced game-changing recommendations to support Ghana's efforts to achieve food security, among other economic benefits. Speaking at DBG Value Chain Dissemination Workshop, the bank's chief economist and head of economic research department, Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frempong, said the objective is to unplug the identified bottlenecks along the critical parts of the value chains of the rice, maize, soya, and poultry sectors.
Food imports are responsible for about half of food inflation in Ghana. With high import volumes of staple food items, particularly rice, sugar, and poultry, the effects of the cost of living on the average citizen cannot be underestimated. In light of this, Development Bank Ghana and its key partners undertook deliberate efforts, including the multi-stakeholder workshops, to unravel the issues in order to be able to address market failures and critical food supply chains of maize, soya, poultry, and rice. Speaking to Joy Business at the Value Chain Dissimulation Workshop, DBG's Chief Economist and Head of Economic Research Department, Dr. Kwabena Oponi-Frimpong, said its game-changing recommendations will unblock the identified bottlenecks in the value chain.
GCS, for example, they've officially written to us that they've adopted all the recommendations that we have put forward. They've written to us, our CEO, Keduka. So I believe the next stage of discussion will go on. We have set up also an implementation committee with GCS. We are working on the scope of work and all of that.
He said the Ghana Commodity Exchange needs a massive reform to ensure food security in the country.
This is a national security issue. Food is a national security issue. So again, government can come in. And again, DBG, maybe after a lot of internal deliberation, we can probably also figure out a way in which we can support GCX. But one thing is clear. GCX needs all the support it can get to make our food security issue go away or minimize it. That is incontrovertible. We have to do it. Which way we do it, we have to put our heads together, but you have to get it done.
Meanwhile, Director of Agribusiness at GESEL, Samuel Yeboah, pledged their commitment to double their support in the agri value chain to ensure food sufficiency in the country.
We are looking at doubling this performance over years, every year, to ensure that more support is given to the agricultural sector to be able to produce more, to become self-sufficient in food production in the country.
DBG, in the meantime, is optimistic its recommendations and other proposals will be implemented in due course. For Joy Business, Pius Kojubaka.
The Ghana Statistical Service has launched the International Data Masterclass aimed at supporting Ghana's growth in data literacy. According to the Deputy Government Statistician, Faustina Frimpong-Angwa, the masterclass is needed to help government and leaders to take good policy decisions that will inure to the benefit of the public and contribute to economic development.
National Data Masterclass, which was launched by the Ghana Statistical Service, is an online course designed by the UK's Office for National Statistics to put data and evidence at the center of decision-making. The service also launched the Digital Census Atlas and the GSS Learning Hub demo. According to the Deputy Government Statistician, Faustina Frimpong-Angwa, understanding data is key to making good public policies.
And our data fair in the sense that what we do is we crunch numbers. But surprisingly, people are not too comfortable when it comes to numbers because they think it's too technical. But we thank the UK office for bringing it lower level such that non-statisticians who make decisions on our behalf will be able to understand and appreciate how to use numbers in their policy making and again in planning decisions for us. Our partnership with ONS has been long one, starting from 2018. And thank you for helping us to transform and again to modernize.
Deputy British High Commissioner Keith McMahon said the UK was committed to supporting Ghana's growth in data literacy.
Data stats on housing, schooling, health, etc. all are vital for governments to support policy and decision making. All of this is really important in order to help governments make the right choices about how they spend their money and how they perhaps grow the economy but also support of their citizens. The UK is committed to fostering a culture across government where decisions are grounded in robust data-driven insights in order to leave no one behind. The UK continues to collaborate with the Ghana Statistical Service through the UK's Office for National Statistics, Technical Assistance and the Capacity Building Partnership. This partnership has supported the 2021 Population and Housing Census, helped upgrade the National Sustainable Development Goals reporting platform, as well as funding for surveys such as the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey.
The launch forms part of the 2023 African Statistics Day celebration aimed at modernizing data ecosystems to accelerate the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
How we part company tonight. My name is Emma Davis. For more business news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. I leave you with international business.